Hi St. Mary's, my name is Tori Spencer, and today I will be hosting an SMC TV special event called Year in Review. Now this is going to kind of be an overlook of everything big that has happened this past year, and although it might not have happened within this 2012-2013 school year, we're still going to cover it because it was a big media event, or it was a really important thing that happened in the world. And a lot has happened over this past year, so it's going to be really fun to take a look back at everything that's gone on. So to begin the year in review, we will start with just some basic news coverage. And the first thing we'll talk about is how Facebook went public. They began trading on the NASDAQ stock market, and so shares were up for sale, and that went on sale May 18th. At first, stocks were down a little bit, but now Facebook's not going anywhere, so they'll be fine. One of the biggest things that happened at the beginning of last year was the death of Whitney Houston. It happened on February 11th, 2012, right before the Grammys, so it was a huge shocker to the entire world, and it was due to accidental drowning, which is what they thought at first, but then they found heart disease and drug use in her body. So it was a very tragic event that happened for the music and entertainment industries. A huge celebration over in London was the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. This celebrated her 60th year as Queen, and it was officially marked on June 2nd, 2012. There were a lot of parades, celebrations, etc. all throughout England, so it was a great year for the royal family. A huge success for the U.S., however, was our presence in the Summer Olympics. Some big names during the Olympics were Gabby Douglas, who at 16 years old took home gold for all-around and for individual performances. Ryan Lochte made a name for himself. He got gold medals as well. And alongside him was fellow swimmer Michael Phelps, who set a record in Olympics history as the most decorated Olympian with 22 medals. And we cannot forget another young swimmer, Missy Franklin, who set a world record for the 200-meter backstroke, and she is a fourth-time gold medalist. This is huge because young people did so well at the Olympics. I mean, many of our medalists were under 20 years old, and I'm just sitting at home like, oh, cool, what am I doing with myself here at 21? But, you know, we'll all make names for ourselves someday. So again, U.S., huge at the Olympics. Another huge U.S. event was the election this year. It was a close race between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, but Obama won for another term, and yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was such a close race, it seemed like, up until the very end, and then Obama just swept it. So congrats again on a second term. It's already been a very exciting year for him, so we'll see how his term pans out. More royal family news. This one was huge. Prince William and Duchess Kate will have a baby due in July. There's going to be a royal baby. And I mean, this is huge for the family. I mean, there's been so much royal family news with the Jubilee and then another little royal scandal we'll get to later. But this is such good news for the family. She's starting to show a little bit. She's the classiest, most fabulous mom to be out there right now. So she has a ton of good style tips and hints for if you're wanting to dress for maternity. One of the biggest acquisitions of the year was when Disney bought Lucasfilms. There are many mixed reactions to this news. Some Star Wars fans were not that pleased with this acquisition. They weren't really sure, but a lot of people saw what Disney could do with Marvels and with the Avengers and those type things, and they're really excited for what might happen with these new Star Wars films. So that'll be exciting to see how that turns out. In December, obviously, we're all still here. The world did not end. That's kind of huge. I mean, it's a big story this year. I mean, the world was supposed to end, what now, 4 months ago, but we're all still here. So it looks like those Mayans were wrong. Good for us. Yeah. And one of the biggest things that happened at the beginning of this year, which rocked the religious world, Pope Benedict stepped down as Pope. on February 28th. He resigned, has been basically the first pope to resign. The last one did hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And his successor is our new Pope Francis. And he set history over our spring break when he became pope, because he's the first non-European pope. And he's also the first pope named Francis. So this guy just making history already. And it looks like so far he's doing a pretty good job. So we'll see how he takes it from here. Some sad events happened this year. This has been a very hard and tragic and unfortunate year for many places around the U.S. Most recently, the Boston Marathon explosions that happened just earlier this week on Monday. The latest news on that is that the suspect is being arrested. They have a suspect, and either they have arrested him or in the process of arresting him. The bomb explosions killed 3 and injured over 100. One of the victims happened to be an 8-year-old boy. And following this, there have been poison. This poison's name is ricin, in the letters of many U.S. senators, and even a letter sent to President Obama. And so these all are kind of resemblant of what happened with 9/11 and the anthrax letters after 9/11 happened. And the Boston Marathon bombs are said to be the biggest attack on the U.S. since 9/11. So the resemblance is kind of scary, but most, if not all, of those injured are said to be released from the hospital sometime soon, and they have all been taken care of. And again, it's amazing to see how we all band together in times of tragedy like this. Earlier this year, I guess during the summer, on July 20th, in Aurora, Colorado, a gunman shot and killed 12 in a movie theater at the midnight screening of the new Batman movie, The Dark Knight Rises, and injured 58. It was kind of the first of what would be a very controversial year in gun control and those debates. The second biggest event in those gun control controversies was the Sandy Hook shooting on December 14th, 2012, which took the lives of 20 children and 6 staff members and hurt many. And that is probably the most devastating event of the year that something like this even happened in Connecticut and in the U.S. At the end of October, the East Coast was rocked by a Category 3 hurricane, Hurricane Sandy, and it destroyed most, if not all, of the East Coast. And it was the second costliest hurricane in U.S. history, the first, obviously, Hurricane Katrina. And it was a disaster, and there have been a ton of relief efforts. Like I said earlier, it's amazing to see the country come together in these times of need. Horrible things happen, but I mean, the amazingness of us banding together overcomes and outweighs that tragedy. So kind of going on to lighter news, those were some of the main tragic events that happened this year. We'll go on to lighter subjects. In sports news, us here in South Bend had a very good year with the Notre Dame football team having an undefeated season. It was very, very exciting when we went 12-0. Even though we lost the national championship game by a lot, but you know, the season was really fun because you're like, oh no, they can't, no way we're going to be undefeated, and then it happened. So very exciting news there for us. And then some other news hit us right after we got back from Christmas break with the whole Manti Te'o scandal. The scandal began when Deadspin.com put out an article saying that Te'o's girlfriend, who he claimed died of leukemia within a day of his grandmother's passing back in the fall, was fake, and that he made the whole thing up. He was actually supposedly caught in this huge whirlwind of catfishing and vengeance, or like one of his friends back home didn't and his cousin kind of played a trick on him, and he was a victim and everything. So, I mean, it was just a huge news story for South Bend that someone not from here, but who went to school here is in such a huge national media story. So we got a lot of attention. Don't really know if it's good attention, but I mean, it was attention for us. Kind of going along with the scandal themes, Lance Armstrong admitted to doping and using performance-enhancing drugs during his time as an athlete, as a cyclist. and many of his endorsements got dropped, and he had all his awards taken away. So it was huge for him and companies like Nike and the Live Strong campaign. The Live Strong campaign is still going on and is still okay, but it was just a huge little shake up for them. In good sports news, the Super Bowl was really exciting this year. Not necessarily because of the teams playing, though. We saw Beyonce come back, and that was really what drew in a lot of the viewers for the Super Bowl this year. The Ravens won the Super Bowl, which is good. There was a huge power outage, and after halftime, probably because Beyonce just rocked that place, but her halftime show was huge because it brought back her and her music, and along with her performance was a performance of Destiny's Child, which us 90 girls just died over. So that was fantastic. And who can resist the Super Bowl commercials? And who can forget that awful GoDaddy commercial when Bar Raffaele was kissing that guy? Yeah, but we've all moved on from the Super Bowl. And now we're moving on from sports news to my kind of news, entertainment news. So many things happened with couples this year. There were breakups and babies and getting together. There was so much that happened. So I'll start with the Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez breakup. They broke up after a couple years, I believe, of being together. It was a huge shock. I mean, of course, little girls and believers are going crazy, and he's gotten himself into a world of a mess since the breakup. But Selena's actually done pretty well for herself. She's in a new movie, Spring Breakers, and she's got new songs coming out. So they're both doing well on their own kind of terms. But that was huge because they had been dating for so long. Kanye West and Kim Kardashian started dating, which rumors of that began last year a few months after her divorce from Kris Humphries, which still isn't final. And at the end of 2012, she announced that she was pregnant with Kanye's baby. So it'll be very interesting to see if she has a baby while she is still legally married to someone else. So we'll see if they can kind of fix that whole thing before she has the baby here. And it's actually due around the same time as Kate Middleton's baby. And so that'll be interesting to see the media frenzy around those births. Along with the whole royal baby thing, Prince Harry got himself in a little bit of trouble when he was spotted naked and had naked pictures taken of him in Las Vegas earlier this year. So that was definitely something not expected for a royal family member, and it was kind of controversial, kind of funny, kind of interesting. Overall, it was just kind of something we can laugh about now, and hopefully the royal family's laughing about it too. I don't know. We'll see. And another huge breakup that I would say probably one of the biggest breakups of the year, if not the biggest breakup of the year, Katie Holmes and Tom Cruise. I mean, it's been joked about for years that Tom is too controlling and that he hides Katie away in the basement or something like that, but during the summer, it was official. She called him up, said it's over, and then they're done. And many people say it's because Tom pushed his Scientology practices too far on her and Suri, and now Suri, their child, has become an even bigger media star than she has been. So that was one of the biggest events that happened in Hollywood this year, and it was just a huge deal. But I think now it's all kind of wrapped up, and Katie's doing her own thing, and Tom is in a ton of new movies, so they're both doing well individually. And so we'll see how Suri will do growing up now with her parents divorced. Miley Cyrus made major headlines this year. First, she got engaged to Liam Hemsworth at the end of May. So that was exciting because, you see Hannah Montana and Gail from the Hunger Games getting married. That's exciting. And then Miley had to go and chop off all of her hair. And that probably made bigger news than the engagement actually did, which is kind of funny. I mean, she dyed it blonde and then just completely chopped it all off. And it's kind of one of those things where, you either love it or you hate it. Personally, hated it at first, but now I'm just kind of like, you know what? If you can do that, you go. Good for you. You just dye your hair bleach blonde. Kind of makes me wonder what it'd be like if I chopped all my hair off, but not really at the same time because I could never do that. I would just cry and cry for days. But it was definitely a huge headline in Hollywood and in the media this year. So, I mean, and she's done a ton of things since then. Their breakup rumors have been swirling around the media for the past few months, but I think people just kind of need to leave them alone for now. Like, let them do their own thing. They're just trying to make it through their young couple in love. Just let them be. All right, so One Direction just kind of took over the world this year in the media and in the music world. They have fans all over the world. Many people have called them the new Beatles, but really they made huge music waves with their hits. What Makes You Beautiful, Live While We're Young, and Little Things Now is, I think, one of their new songs. But there are Directioners all over the world who just cannot get over these 5 guys who didn't even know each other before they were on the X Factor and now make this group. So it's amazing how a show like the X Factor can bring about such a huge national musical phenomenon like One Direction. And speaking of successful media outlets, we're going to go over the top movies of 2012. And there were a lot. 2012 was a great year for movies. The highest grossing movies in 2012 were The Avengers by Disney, which in my opinion was the greatest movie of the year. It was amazing. The Dark Knight Rises, which again was a huge phenomenon, sequel to the Dark Knight. Yeah, okay. The Hunger Games, which was crazy awesome because this huge book that's so popular among fans is finally made into a movie, and it launched the career of Jennifer Lawrence, and she's just amazing. Skyfall, another James Bond movie. And The Hobbit, which was a Lord of the Rings movie. So all those movies were the highest grossing in the box offices, and so all those movies are great. However, they did not necessarily get all of the nominations during award season and get all of the prizes and acclaims. Those movies were Les Mis, one of my absolute favorites, Argo, which won Best Movie of the Year at the Oscars, and whose director, Ben Affleck, won a few awards as well. And it was one of his first times directing. I don't know if it was his very first time directing or not, but I mean, made a huge hit for this movie that he decided to take on. Django Unchained, which won a lot of awards as well. I can't talk. Lincoln, Silver Linings Playbook, and many more, but those are the top nominated ones for this award season, and it was an amazing year for all of those movies. I mean, Lincoln, Daniel Day-Lewis did such a fabulous job of portraying him, and again, Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper in Silver Linings Playbook. I haven't seen it yet, but I heard the performances are amazing, and I can't wait to see it. I have to see it. So those were some of the top movies of this year. And it's hard to believe that they all came out in 2012 because we've been in 2013 for 4 months now, and we're still talking about these movies. I mean, obviously they made a huge impact on the media world, and it's amazing what movies have come to now. So now we're going to go over the top 5 songs of this year, and they're all ones that you know and have probably rocked to and then hated because you've heard it so much, but now that they've been gone for a while, now you love them again. So here they are. Somebody That I Used to Know by Gotye. That was the first time I heard it, I was like, okay, yeah, this is kind of cool. And then it was on the radio all the time, and like I said, I was like, all right, that's enough, like, let's get new music. And now whenever it's on, I just jam because I really love it. Call Me Maybe. Still not really over that one. Every time I hear, I have to change it. But you know, it's one of those hits that if you're with your friends and you're out and you hear it, you just kind of have to sing and bob along. But that was probably the biggest song of the year. I know technically Somebody That I Used to Know was one of the top songs of the year, but I think Call Me Maybe just out of the water. That's how we'll remember 2012 most likely. It was the Call Me Maybe year. Next, We Are Young by Fun. I love Fun. They're so awesome, and We Are Young. I have to admit, though, I did hate this song a lot at one point just because it was on all the time. And then I started listening to their other music, and I just love them so much that I didn't even care if We Are Young was on anymore. But that was a huge song this year, kind of like an anthem for us. Titanium by David Guetta and Sia, however you say her name, but that's an awesome song. It's got a really good beat. It's a good song to work out to. And the last top song of this year was Impossible by Chantel. And that's not one I expected, but I really liked that song and it was good. The girl has a good voice. I mean, the words are catchy. I remember the little girl I babysit, she sang that song in her talent show. I mean, so overall, it made a good impact on the music world. So that is our year in review. It was great to go over the year with you guys, and it was fun to do research on this because you kind of forget everything that happened in a year. I mean, so much has happened this year, and it's amazing to see where we'll be in a year from now. I mean, we have the royal baby due. We have so many more movies coming out. I mean, so many more people could break up or get together or get engaged. I mean, we have a new pope. It's going to be so exciting to see how these things pan out over the next year. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys had as eventful of a year as we all have. Tune in to SMC TV as much as you can. A new episode of SMC Style Watch will be up soon. I'm Tori Spencer, and thank you. Have a fabulous day.